Greetings everyone, another week, and this is Jara Citizen Gamer. This weekend I had kind of an odd thought. I was looking at ship hit points as it was on the holo table, and I remember a long time ago where they had stated that the Connie had something like a million hit points or whatnot, and it got me wondering what exactly are they using to calculate hit points for the ships, or are these numbers more arbitrary at this point in time? And so I decided to run an experiment to see what would happen if you based it off of mass, because as all things with games, you have to come up with a unified system to calculate hit points or anything else. So as I said, I kind of guessed that it was based on mass. So what I did is I went to look at the Hornet's hit point values, which I believe were somewhere around 7,500, divided it into the actual mass of the ship, which is 22,932 listed on the official ship page, and came up to something. I found out that was roughly a 33% ratio. It was a little bit lower than that, but I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and run everything at about 33% and kind of see what numbers we get. Now, as I said, when it comes to hit points, I think you need to be very consistent about these things. A lot of your damage is going to be based off of that. Everything. I mean, you can't just come up with weapon systems and damage and all this stuff without actually knowing what balanced values are. So, as I said, my calculations you're about to see come out really weird towards the end, but in the beginning a lot of them are actually fairly close to a lot of the established numbers that we have. So then it kind of begs the question to me, to a large degree, how are they coming up with a lot of the hit points for multi-crew ships and whatnot? Is there another factor that's coming into play? But as you can see here on this list, I'm going to go ahead and put up the screen here. There you go. And I came up with some very interesting figures. Now, the first two I have here on the list are the Super Hornet and the Hornet, and they came out actually pretty darn close to what the game values currently are. The Super Hornet at 23,219 kilograms translates to 7,740 hit points at a 33% basis. The Hornet at 22,932 kilograms comes out to 7,644 hit points, and I'll just skip the weights from this point on so you get the general idea. So let's read all. You can see it on the screen, but as you look down here, as you can see, there's a lot of things here that you would kind of expect, like the Merlin only having 2,000 hit points. It's really not that big of a ship. You can kind of see how mass would relate to hit points. The Delta and such having low. I would expect the Gladiator down, if you look further down the list, to have more hit points than the Hornet. The Cutlass was surprising to me. Maybe the mass is off on that ship. A lot of these numbers, as I said, these are coming off the ship's stats page, and some of these haven't been updated for a while. So it was surprising to me to see that the Cutlass had such a remarkable amount of hit points. And of course, as you see here, the Vanguard, I think they have right now listed like 11,500 hit points or whatnot. But as you can see, using a scale like this, you come out closer to 15,000 hit points. And of course, the Freelancer, while it looks low at 8,666 hit points, if you think about it, it's basically like a hollow can. And so you're basically having a lot of mass that's stretched out over an area so you can store things inside. Not a very densely packed ship. So it does make sense to me that it would have that many hit points and be as big as it is, because it is not a compact fighter. The Retaliator here was very interesting to me. As you can see, it has 62,666 hit points. Now, why that's interesting to me is that I remember that when the Retaliator and the Connie both came out as flyable, the hit points were heavily swayed in favor of the Constellation. And using the mass calculations, the Constellation will only have 26,850 hit points, really swaying the survivability towards the direction of the Retaliator, which to me, once again, also makes sense, because that thing's supposed to go in and attack large capital ships for bombing runs. It wouldn't make sense to me that the thing would fold like a cheap suit. You can see here the Carrack is also pretty close to the Retaliator as far as hit points go at 60,000. And the Idris M has 536,703 hit points. Now, this is why this last part became very interesting to me, was that, as I stated, when they originally showed the Constellation hit points, I remember them having a listing of something like 1,000,000 points of damage. So my question is what changed? As you can see, that there's some differences in the fighters. I mean, sometimes it's a couple thousand points difference. Sometimes it's just several hundred. But it's in a reasonable ballpark to kind of see that things are kind of progressing in a relatively standard way. But the second we hit these multiplayer ships and some of these newer ships, numbers just skew all over the place. I mean, the discrepancy gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, like a lot of things that relate to Star Citizen, I have questions related to how they come up with these numbers and figures. And so this is going to be kind of my part one of my thoughts on this. I don't want to make it too long, but feel free to discuss it. And if anyone else has any information about how they actually calculate these hit point values, I would be very interested in if you could go ahead and let me know that, because there's a whole lot going on in this game, and for me, I want to understand as much as possible to really kind of get a grasp of what we can expect in the game. Now, feel free to forward this off to any dev, if you think there's something here that you have, if you think this is like a video that you think they should see, because I know we're still in the development cycle of this game, and there's still a lot of tweaking to come. But this does pose some interesting questions, and maybe one of them could respond back and explain how they calculate the hit points. And this is one of the great things about open development, is that we can ask them these things and maybe point out, as we're looking at stuff, maybe where there's a flaw as well. So anyway, as I said, leave your comments down below. Feel free to go ahead and let me know what you think. I'm very interested in finding out if someone out there knows exactly what they do for calculations. Very interesting stuff, I think, but that's just me. I love numbers. So anyone out there, just go ahead and please get me educated. Alright guys, this is Jar Citizen Gamer, and I hope this caught your interest, and catch you next time.